The boardroom went silent the moment the promotion slide appeared on the screen. Every executive turned toward me because they already believed they knew what was coming. After 9 exhausting years of sacrificing everything for the company, I was finally supposed to become Senior Vice President of Operations. Instead, my heart froze when I saw another name glowing in bold letters across the screen. It was not mine, it belonged to Sophia Whitmore, the 23-year-old daughter of our CEO. She smiled proudly as everyone offered polite applause, even though she had never managed a shipping route, negotiated a customs delay, or solved a supply chain crisis in her life. At that moment, I realized I had never been viewed as a future leader. I had only been the invisible person making everyone else look successful. My name is Natalie Parker. For nearly a decade, I dedicated my life to Whitmore Maritime Solutions. When I first joined, we were barely surviving, a worn-out office, failing computers, constant financial pressure. I believed in the company because its founder, Harold Whitmore, convinced me that if I stayed loyal and helped build the business, we would eventually become partners. Hard work would always be rewarded, he said, and I wanted to believe merit still mattered. Over the years, I became far more than an operations director. I redesigned our shipping network, modernized our systems, negotiated contracts across several continents, personally handled every major client emergency regardless of the hour. My phone never stopped ringing, holidays disappeared. Vacations were canceled, family dinners became conference calls. Whenever something threatened the company, everyone expected me to solve it, and somehow I always did. Harold praised me privately, promising the promotion was only a matter of time. I never questioned him because I thought loyalty eventually paid off. I missed my younger sister's wedding because an overseas shipment got trapped in customs and Harold insisted nobody else could resolve it. I canceled vacations planned for years because another emergency always appeared at the last minute, but the greatest regret still weighs on me. During the final months of my mother's battle with cancer, I spent countless hours beside her hospital bed with my laptop open, answering international calls instead of simply holding her hand. I convinced myself those sacrifices would secure a better future. Looking back, I was protecting someone else's dream instead of my own. After the shareholder meeting ended, I followed Harold into his office. He poured himself a drink, thanked me for everything I'd done, then calmly explained that Sophia represented the future of the company. I was the dependable engine hidden beneath the surface, while she would become the public face everyone admired. My responsibility, he said without a trace of embarrassment, would be training her, correcting her mistakes, quietly making sure she looked brilliant before investors. Before I could answer, Sophia walked in carrying folders without acknowledging me, dropped them onto my lap, instructed me to process invoices for flowers, decorations, and catering from the celebration event, because administrative work suited my skills better than executive leadership. Harold simply smiled like nothing unusual had happened. I looked at both of them for several seconds, then offered a calm smile. I quietly agreed everything would be handled exactly as it should be. Neither of them noticed that my loyalty had ended in that very moment. That evening, I opened an old filing cabinet and found the employment contract I'd signed almost 9 years earlier. I reviewed every paragraph, every forgotten clause. I was no longer searching for justice from Harold. I already knew he would never admit what he'd done. I was searching for leverage. I found it inside the legal language. A forgotten section confirmed that several pieces of software I had personally created remained my intellectual property. They had never been formally transferred to the company. Years earlier, our outdated computer systems couldn't support the logistics platform I designed. So I hosted the core processing network on my own secure cloud servers under my personal registration. Harold never questioned it. He trusted me completely. He assumed everything belonged to the company. Legally, it never had. That discovery was only the beginning. 3 of our largest international clients had personally requested I oversee every aspect of their shipping operations. During contract negotiations, their legal departments had insisted on key personnel clauses, allowing them to terminate their agreements if I ever stopped managing their accounts. Together, those clients generated nearly 3/4 of the company's revenue. Harold had completely forgotten those provisions because he never handled the operational details himself. I had spent years protecting his business while quietly becoming the foundation beneath it. The following week, I continued going to work as before, attending meetings, answering emails. Watching Sophia confidently make decisions she barely understood, filling conference rooms with trendy phrases while ignoring warnings from the people who actually kept the company running. Everyone could see disaster approaching. Nobody dared challenge the CEO's daughter. The breaking point arrived when Sophia announced a cost-cutting initiative to impress the board. Her first decision was rerouting a critical pharmaceutical shipment through a cheaper port already suffering severe labor strikes and overwhelming congestion. The shipment belonged to our largest client, temperature-sensitive medical supplies, worth tens of millions. I opened my laptop, displayed live shipping reports, calmly explained exactly what would happen: container backlog, labor dispute, estimated delays. The refrigeration units would eventually lose power, destroying valuable medicine and permanently damaging the relationship. The room went uncomfortably quiet because every experienced manager knew I was right. Sophia barely glanced at the information, dismissed it with a confident smile, told everyone my thinking belonged to another generation. Modern executives made bold decisions instead of hiding behind data. Harold sat silently, giving his daughter an approving nod instead of correcting her mistake. Then she made it worse, publicly removed my system administrator privileges, reduced my access to read only, informed the room my quarterly bonus had been canceled to help pay for her new executive branding team. I didn't argue, closed my laptop, thanked everyone for their time, walked back to my office. Packing a few belongings into a small leather bag, I realized I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: freedom. Before leaving the building, I made one call: Victoria Hayes, CEO of Harbor Point Logistics, our biggest competitor. She'd tried recruiting me several times over the years. I'd always refused because I believed loyalty mattered. This time my answer was different. We met over dinner that evening. Within hours, she offered me a senior executive partnership, a generous ownership stake, complete authority over global operations, double my current salary. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely respected. The next morning, I met with one of the best employment attorneys in the state. After reviewing my contract and the paperwork showing my canceled bonus, he explained the company had violated my contract first by withholding earned compensation. That single decision destroyed the non-compete Harold believed would keep me trapped. I was completely free to join anyone immediately. Better yet, every document confirmed the routing platform I'd personally developed remained my intellectual property. That weekend, I logged into my private cloud server from home. I didn't delete files or damage company systems. I simply ended the free software license I'd generously allowed Whitmore Maritime Solutions to use for years. Then I wrote a short professional resignation email explaining I was leaving because the company had violated my employment agreement. I sent it late Sunday night, powered off my company phone, and enjoyed the first peaceful evening I'd had in nearly a decade. Monday morning began like every other workday for my former coworkers. At exactly 9, the software license expired. Instantly, the routing platform stopped functioning. Shipment dashboards froze across offices worldwide. Automated scheduling disappeared. Employees were forced back onto outdated manual systems almost nobody remembered how to use. Panic spread within minutes. Only 15 minutes later, Sophia's disastrous shipping decision produced exactly the outcome I'd predicted. The pharmaceutical containers sat trapped in the congested port with no way to move forward. Refrigeration systems failed during the delay, destroying millions of dollars of life-saving medicine. Furious executives from our largest client demanded answers. When they learned I no longer worked there, they activated the key personnel clause and announced they would terminate the partnership. The remaining major clients quickly followed. They'd trusted me for years because I always answered their calls and treated their businesses like my own. Within a single afternoon, nearly 3/4 of the company's revenue disappeared. Around lunchtime, my phone rang. Harold was shouting before I even finished answering, accused me of sabotage, threatened lawsuits, demanded I reactivate the software immediately. Sitting beside me in my new office were Victoria and my attorney. I calmly placed the call on speaker and asked Harold to speak directly with my lawyer. My attorney explained the legal reality. Whitmore Maritime Solutions had breached my employment agreement first. My software remained my personal intellectual property. I had every legal right to end the free license. Attempting to copy or bypass, it would expose the company to serious violations. The silence that followed lasted several long seconds, when Harold spoke again. The confidence had vanished from his voice. He apologized repeatedly, offered me everything he'd denied days earlier: the executive position, company ownership, a large signing bonus. Immediate payment of every dollar he owed. Sophia cried in the background, begging me to save the company because the board intended to remove her from leadership. I listened quietly, then gave my final answer. I reminded Harold he once told me engines belonged beneath the hood where nobody could see them. Then I explained something he'd forgotten: without the engine, even the most beautiful vehicle cannot move an inch. I wished them both well, ended the call, and never looked back. 6 months later, Whitmore Maritime Solutions filed for bankruptcy after losing its biggest customers and facing overwhelming financial losses. Harold sold many of his personal assets trying to keep the company alive. But the damage was impossible to reverse. Sophia disappeared from the corporate world almost as quickly as she'd entered it, a painful reminder that titles cannot replace experience. Meanwhile, Harbor Point Logistics welcomed every major client who chose to follow me. Together, we built an even stronger company where talented employees received proper recognition, fair compensation, genuine opportunities to grow. Nobody was expected to sacrifice their family, health, or future just to make someone else appear successful. People often ask whether I enjoyed watching my former employer fail. The truth surprises them. My greatest satisfaction never came from their downfall. It came from finally discovering my own value. I stopped begging for appreciation from people who only noticed my work after it disappeared. Walking away taught me something no promotion ever could. Loyalty is meaningful only when it is returned with respect. The moment I believed in my own worth instead of someone else's promises, I stopped living in the shadows and finally became the leader I was always capable of being.